Okay, so now welcome everyone.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. And will you please do the roll call? Yes, of course.
Joe Pigeonary.
Here.
Daniel Davidson.
Here.
Cindy Koza is excused. Jonathan Hayes. Carla Berg. Here. Teresa Dillon.
Here.
Adam Jenkins.
Here.
Brett Yancey is excused and Eric Adams is excused.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so minutes approved from last meeting. Are there any changes, comments? Input from nice. Okay, do we have a motion to approve them?
A motion
Thank
to
you.
approve.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
thank you. All in favor? Thanks, everybody. Okay, any business from the audience?
We have no online attendees and no one has filled out any requests to speak, so no.
Okay, so we can go past that.
Yes, we can.
All righty. Thank you, everyone. And we don't need the committee response, obviously. So now we have the chief or the deputy chief are not here tonight. Instead, Pete is here for us.
Good evening.
Lieutenant Kirkpatrick.
Sorry, I should have said that one. Hey, Pete.
Let's go. So a couple things from us. First and most important, Officer Bragg is back to work, full duty. As you recall, he was shot August 31st. He's doing well. He's excited to be back. He's built of steel, so that was fortunate in that terrible situation. So we're excited to have him back. Next up, I don't know if you've noticed, but we worked pretty closely with ODOT to get a distracted driving billboard put up on 105. That was really led by Officer Pardee, who's assigned to our traffic enforcement team. And they fully funded it, and it was kind of a collaboration and an effort on our part to make motorists aware, be something as they're driving, like, oh yeah, remember that. You know, Officer Pardee focuses on the distracted driving aspect daily, but he's one officer that is spread out throughout the city. And so we've got some really good feedback on Facebook. And so hopefully that's something that we can continue building on with ODOT. I know that there's plenty of money out there grant wise, and Springfield PD always uses up the allotted amount. Other agencies don't, and ODOT was able to then use some of that money to bring it to us. And we just were approved again for a full grant. And so we're going to start working on distracted driving, DUI, seatbelt, and speed. In October, we completed our jail inspection, which happens every 2 years. It's put on by the Oregon State Sheriff's Association, and we passed. That'll be something that's worked into the accreditation process moving forward, but we passed this year. And so we'll move forward for the inspections coming up through accreditation. Christmas parade went well. I think I wasn't there, but I hear that the rain was off for enough time for everybody to get through all the way down to about 5th and Main is what the deputy chief was saying. And leading up to that, Chris Solaris, our community outreach coordinator, was bagging all the calendars to make sure they stayed out of the rain. Hiring, we continue to plug away. Our dispatch is now fully staffed for the first time in 7, 8, 9 years. And that's a happy group of ladies in there. And we've got 5 officers now at DPSST. We just swore in Niles Alvarez on Tuesday. She'll start as a police officer. She comes to us from Eugene. And we have another Eugene officer that will likely be sworn in this month. And she's also going to be great. We know her. We've worked alongside her for many years. She has a really good reputation. And you know, I think it shows that SPD is a great place to work, you know, that people are coming to us, people aren't going from us elsewhere, so I'm pretty proud of that. And that's all I got.
Yep, a couple quick questions.
Yeah.
Do you know what team did the inspection?
Oh, I have their like team number, I think, in my email. There was somebody from Lane County, a female, and then there was someone from Lincoln County, I think.
How were these scores? How many deficiencies were there?
This was, it was a. I don't know what the word is. It wasn't a full inspection because we didn't have Power DMS in time to do the accreditation process. So they just did an on-site inspection and then had us, I was working with Jennifer, Lieutenant Jennifer, Fountain, I think it was from Clackamas County, to all the policies they wanted to see beforehand. Yeah, yeah, so it was kind of, not the full inspection that we'll do when we get accredited through them. I just got into Power DMS like the last few weeks, and so I've got 2 years, thank goodness, because it's gonna take a while, and we're gonna have to change a lot of policies to get to that. But everything, I don't think we had any deficiencies, and let me see if I can find the paperwork.
If I recall, there's like over 313,
313,
right?
super excited.
Yes.
Jennifer Freeman was her name.
It's not, I'm just wondering if you happen to know which team it was, so it's.
Says it was Team 5.
Okay.
Tell me who was on that team. That's stuff this morning. Yes, yeah. Then,
That's okay.
yeah, they're just yeses
Good part.
that we passed.
So it's team by this thing.
Yeah, Jennifer Freeman. Okay.
That's very rigorous. Have you guys heard about the jail inspections, what they're up to? They're very rigorous. There's a team that comes in that's, there's teams throughout the state, and they're not from one agency, they're from a mix of agencies, and there's jail inspectors through GMS, and that's, not GMS, but through the OCCA.
OSSA.
OSSA. And they get assigned jails to inspect that are throughout the state, and it kind of rotates around. You know, the standards in each jail is 313 different standards, from everything from have a process to handling mail, to have a process of classifying inmates, so their dangerousness level from minimum security to maximum security, their medical process, their ability to question or ask requests, and how they are handled through what they call kites or inmate request forms. It's very rigorous, and if we score high on it, it's very rare. Most always it's a deficiency, but it's very rare that you get a full compliance. But there's typically a report that goes back to the lead agency, the department head, or typically the chief or the sheriff, and their one or two of their command staff are present during the debrief from that team. And each team member does one section of those standards, so that they're pretty much experts in that section. And so each one gives a report, and then there's one main report that goes to the sheriff. So that's incredible. It's not, oh, we had an inspection, we did good. It's pretty amazing.
They were very impressed with the cleanliness and quietness of our jails.
That's awesome, because cleanliness is huge in those inspections. Huge. They do water temperature, they do vermin control, they do all of that. It's pretty amazing. It's good that the jail was built originally, which I guess I helped put it together. And Springfield was not interested in being part of the jail inspection system. We're working with the Sheriff's Association at that time. And the PD has awesomely morphed into how do I put it, a more cooperative agency with other agencies, and creating a standard which becomes, you have jail standards, which makes our jail less liable for lawsuit if we are complying with a standard that's recognized throughout the state as opposed to our own standard. So it's a big deal, and it really helps reduce the liability for our city and against lawsuits from inmates who like to do that. Sorry.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. Thank you.
I did have, wanted to have a discussion. So there was another shooting in town recently. And I'm really glad to hear that the officer that was shot is back on duty and doing well. And so I was wondering, do we know why the uptick in shootings? Have we done research?
It's not unique to Springfield. It's statewide. Portland, Eugene, with the downtown clubs in Eugene, I know they've had to really up their undercover surveillance. And they're bringing in detectives. They were last summer. Not exactly sure, nothing that we could really put our finger on. You know, at times there's retaliatory shooting, so something happens here and then you can expect it to occur somewhere else. But I agree. I feel like we've seen an increase in shootings, you know, over the last couple of years.
And I know this is public, so maybe, you know, like you'll get the same answer, but I noticed in the news release, it's kept saying 2 groups were supposed to meet, 2 groups. Are we not calling them gangs? Are they really just like random groups of people?
We're not calling them gangs.
Okay.
2 groups of people.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't mind, there's a legal standard on how to label gangs or security threat groups or STGs. And they have to meet legal definitions in order to be labeled a gang or a member of a security threat group. If you go outside of that definition or just call them that cuz, then you can get your tail sued so easily. It's incredibly easy to be labeled a gang member and you're not because someone thought you were a gang member. So there's criteria, and you have to be 3 points of 8 that have to be met before you can actually be labeled as a gang member. And that actually goes up to the state, to the Fusion Center for tracking. But that, yeah, they're a threat group, but they're just, but they can't be. Our city is not going to sit there. Our department's not going to say gang member, but they don't have those elements, and that's just a liability issue.
Okay,
Does that help?
yeah. It hits really home because it was right across the street from my home. And yeah. So
Call me wrong if I am on any of that.
No, that's that they have done away with that term in general. So we, you know, and we look at it as they may affiliate in certain areas, but we treat it just as the crime of what it is. And we know maybe who they associate with. And so those are things that we can watch, or if we, you know, need to go track them down. But yeah, we don't use those words
Do
anymore.
we actually have gangs here now?
Groups of people.
Just groups of people, but not
not what they're
criteria,
labeling, we're
yeah.
not labeling.
So we don't have
gangs.
the Crips or the Bloods or,
People that hang out commit crimes.
yeah.
Any other questions for Lieutenant Kirkpatrick?
More, sorry.
No.
Safety issue, and I know I brought this up with George a little bit ago after this last shooting, and I don't know if this is the correct format. I'm waiting to hear back, but I'm really interested in, are you gonna think about what I'm gonna talk about?
I just saw the proposal, which is on the chief's desk. We're talking about shields.
Yeah.
That would enable us, which we don't have rifle rated shields
Right.
available to patrol, to do things like extractions. Officer Bragg was in a bad position after he was shot, and we used vehicles. We had patrol cars make their approach. But yes, the proposal is on the desk and it addresses exactly what.
It will be funded.
Thank you. You'll like what you see.
I'm sure, it's just one of those things where it's like, why, it's a safety thing, and be able to recover an officer in danger, you gotta have something that's gonna get some hard defense against weapons, and because of the uptick of shootings, there's absolutely no excuse not for our agency to have and protect our guys. So I brought that up a little bit ago when we had that street thing. Brought up with George and said, tell me how many, tell me how much, and I'll get you money.
Yeah.
If
And
I have a private funder, then I'll do it.
to expand on that, I mean, it's not simply for officer extraction, because God forbid we don't have to do that again, but it's also for evacuating nearby residents. So if we're at an armed dispute, and it's something where we need to start evacuating the neighboring houses, we want to have that protection, not just for us, but also for
Citizens. Yeah.
citizens and family members and kids, and get them to safety. So yes, it is,
Cool.
it is.
So glad to hear that it's
Well on its
on
way.
his desk, and I'll ask him about it tomorrow. I can get away with that. That's great.
Anything else? Were we going to talk about the domestic violence?
Oh, it's down there. It's
Yeah.
after.
Okay.
For business for the community. I just wanted to mention that the cultural minority community vacancy will open again soon. I'm thinking January. That was Brittany's position. Last time it was open, we didn't get any applicants and they extended it. We still didn't get any applicants. So if you think of anybody that would be great for that position, I believe it's gonna be January that it's gonna be opening, but I'll let y'all know when it does open, so, and send out a link. And then the other thing you guys wanted to talk about was the review of goals, next steps, direction. So in the agenda there, I listed what the bylaws state. Says the bylaws state the overall purpose of SPAC is to provide citizen input to the chief of police regarding public safety and neighborhood livability issues, and shall assist with the implementation of the long-range plan by providing input, evaluation, and feedback on goals, policies, and strategies, service delivery programs and priorities, and progress in establishing and maintaining coordinated and cooperative working relationships between the community, schools, and other agencies and the Springfield Police Department. So that's what the purpose of SPAC is. So I don't know if you guys want to discuss goals, direction. I mean, we have our goals are up at the top of the agenda. I put them on every agenda now.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You have a question or?
Well, I was one of the things that I emailed about. I wanted to, is there a way that we can talk about or measure against, are we meeting this? Do we feel like we're meeting this? Is there anything else that we can be doing to be as effective as possible? I don't know what that would look like.
That's a good question. I'm not sure what it would look like either, but it's something that we can certainly talk about and establish. So, what are you thinking?
I love ad hoc committees. Joe doesn't.
I know from the department's perspective that the department really appreciates this committee for reviewing the policies and bringing community concerns. So I know that from the department's standpoint, this committee is great.
But are we just a policy reviewer is a question.
That's kind of what it's been feeling like.
Yeah.
Well, but that it's stated in the here that that's one of the things that you'll do. The other thing, it talks about the long range plan. Well, our long range plan was done in 2016. So I know that there's been some discussion again about doing a new one or doing a strategic plan. And I know there's also been discussion around doing new mission value statements. And I'm assuming that SPAC will be a part of those conversations, or they would, be talking to them when they start those. It's just not in the budget anytime soon to do. But I know that they're discussing doing those things.
To your question, kind of, sort of,
Mostly.
mostly.
Well, what's been important, or what I've seen in the past over the various members of SPAC and iterations of it, is that I know that the command staff here, at least appears to, from my perspective, that they really appreciate what you are hearing or what you're seeing, even literally in your neighborhoods. Because that information is valuable for the PDs. Of course, there's always the social platforms, et cetera, but in this environment, if you are hearing or somebody, even rumors or whatever, that is a public safety issue, this is a great format for that. And that's what they're looking for is citizen input. What is, the PD wants to know what's, you want to hear what's happening in the city. And we are supposed to be that vocal point for the cities and neighborhoods that you live in, what you've seen or, what you're experiencing throughout the month or the 2 months you're not here. You've seen issues arising, like you're out of Gateway Mall, and you've seen something happen a couple, 2 or 3 times. You bring it up in here and say, hey, what's going on out there? I've seen this, and this. And I think it's wonderful for citizens to share that. I know that it's super appreciated. It's like, and even like recently with their sting operations, with the shoplifting operations in the different businesses that we have, has been phenomenal when it comes to the positive feedback and from the business. I work with those businesses and those people that run those businesses, and they are giddy over this, and that they have seen a downturn on people that are being predacious on their businesses because they're scared of getting caught in Springfield. I mean, that's all there is to it. You get caught in Springfield, you're gonna check out the jail we built 10 years ago or 12 years.
Yeah.
10.
Oh, 9
Years ago.
14
Oh my
years.
gosh, it's been that long?
That's crazy.
14.
Oh my God, 14 years old here. Seems like just yesterday, I'm talking about how the sewage is gonna come out of that jail, where the pipes are gonna be. So, yeah. But, I mean, that's my impression, and correct me if I'm wrong,
No.
that's huge.
Yeah.
I think we need to get back to pizza once in a while. Just saying, that was important as well.
Priorities.
Yeah, there's priorities.
Okay.
Pretty good.
Just saying. Cool for the committee members to have that.
Well, and I know.
It was.
And I know that was back when you had quarterly meetings, so you saw each other less frequently. And we discussed it a little bit at last meeting,
Right.
and we decided against going back to quarterly. I don't know if you want to discuss it again, given,
Well, that
For
was even
people-
before, because
Yeah.
when
For
I,
people that-
when I joined it and we were having
Fine.
pizza, it was every other month.
oh, was it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So the quarterly meetings were.
That'd have been way back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Way
yeah.
Am I hearing that if we want pizza, we only?
It's very perceptive.
Students.
My monthly would be. Right?
Well, I'm just
Monthly.
wondering due to the lack of attendance again.
And maybe we up the attendance.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
because,
No,
we're,
not the quarterly meeting, the pizza.
oh, the pizza.
We're still on. We're still on pizza. And Steve's going pizza's a good idea.
I'd like to comment when we get into
Yes.
The pizza? Pizza?
You sure about comment from the audience? Hey, but did you already miss a comment from the
I
audience?
don't need pizza every meeting.
I'll discuss it with the chief.
Steve, did you miss business from the audience?
Well, I was here.
You're supposed to.
You know, it's pretty hard to hear back, by the way. I always want to scoot up there. I don't want
You have to
to-
sit next to me.
You're welcome to come up for,
Yeah.
you're also welcome to go ahead and comment now. I mean,
Sure.
Yeah. Please do.
This committee was meeting every 3 months. I know that. It wasn't. Nobody used it. Nobody came here. And then we started having these incidences. Like the police. Citizens getting pretty upset. What we found out, or what I found out is they're afraid to go to the chief. They're afraid to go to the city. They're just leery. And I thought this committee was a filter. They can come here, speak. So you can hear, they can pick things out of that for you and make behavior modification, whatever happens. Anyway, earlier, something may be coming along, and we've been accomplishing that since we went to a month. And I don't want to go back to 3 months because it may be 6 months or a year before we get something important here, but it would be months and months of reporting to you guys. So that's why I feel it should be a monthly meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thought I might respond. No, that's right. So, because I know he'll listen to me. No, it is, what I've noticed, it's the participation, public participation we've had in these meetings, when things were fired up and
Yep.
everybody's all upset, which is great, which is when we went to monthly and we had a ton of people online, Zoom, which is the platform, which is actually making meetings, pretty much innocuously or being present in meetings anonymously. And so that platform's still here. And so I think, and also remember in our council meetings, we're not getting people from the public coming in and screaming at us. So there's been some improvements, and I think there's been some major improvements, and I think the public is quite frankly, much happier than it was last year. And so I think that with the every other month meeting, we can still see that. And if there's an uptick, I know this committee would be fine. If there's an uptick of community coming in and they're hot and bothered and upset, and we start getting these Zoom in calls, and because we typically have limits to those calls, it's like, okay, well, we got 10 people that want to talk. So we probably should start meeting sooner, which is what we did. We shifted to once a month. That mitigated the amount of people were getting calls, and then that's tapered off. So that's why we went to every other month. I'm not in favor of every 3 months myself at all.
Anyway, that's why I talked about going back to 3 months.
Yeah.
Now, I sort of hope so, do that, because this has been an important vehicle for people to lower levels to get something said.
And I completely agree with you.
I still consider this team
No
not
kid. I can sit here all day, Steve.
I would like to see more consistent participation from our membership. And I realize that things come up and everybody has a ton of other commitments, monthly and bi-monthly and 3/4 monthly, whatever. But, you know, we applied for these positions with a certain expectation. And I think that maybe we ought to reiterate those expectations that we joined this committee because we wanted to, and we wanted to volunteer, we wanted to make a difference. So that's just my input in that. I think that a bi-monthly or every other month meeting is the maximum that I would want to see. So being the chair,
Well, if you want to go with Robert's rules, you can see if anybody would like to make a motion to change the meetings, do so and go with the vote, because that would be the majority, which is not what the chair has. They have a majority vote, but it would be part of the process. And I think it would be definitive, and I'm pretty sure it will go a particular way. Now, if you asked if anybody had a motion, or we leave it the same. And then if no one has a motion, then it's about the same. If someone has a motion to go to quarterly, whoever, and it has to get seconded and then voted on, and if the majority carries the vote, then that's what we do.
okay.
But
Well, in that case, does anybody have a motion that they would like to present to change? No, you don't get the vote, Steve, but we wish you could. To change to a quarterly meeting? Hearing no motion to accept that, we will table that, not table it, we will just discount it. Yeah, table.
No, because if we table it, then we gotta talk about it again.
I think we have to talk about it. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, in February, if there's only 3 of you here, we're.
5.
Yeah, okay. So does anybody have a motion to make this a monthly meeting and participate in it as such? All right. Does anyone have a motion that they would like to continue an every other month meeting?
Do we need a motion
I
to?
don't know, you
You
don't
don't need a motion for that? Okay, it stands as every other month. Thank you. All right. So be it.
Okay, so for the scheduled policy review, real quickly, I wanted to address 41.4.16 prohibited camping. We have pushed that off for the last 3 meetings because we were waiting for our department to rewrite the policy. It's not complete yet, and I didn't want to change the policy review schedule again. So I was hoping to just touch on it real quick and say when it is complete, I will put it on the calendar if that works for you guys. Because I just keep pushing it and changing the calendar and, okay,
That
Can
is
I ask a
fine.
question?
yes.
Who's in charge of writing that? That policy?
It's writing that, George and Mary Bridget.
Yeah, it's a
City attorney.
collective
Yeah, with
effort.
the, our city attorney, Mary Bridget Smith, and, Lieutenant Crawley, I believe. Yeah. I hear that it's in the works, it's almost complete, but I haven't even got, I said, can I have a draft? And they wouldn't even give that up, so. So the other one is, that we have scheduled for tonight is policy 1.3.5, which is domestic violence and child abuse and elder abuse. And we just did that one about a year ago, I think, but it has been revised. So Lieutenant Crawley asked that we review it again. So did everybody have a chance to?
We get a chance to go over this and look at it all. It's gonna be, yeah.
I mean, I don't have a great memory and I didn't go back to what we had last year, but it doesn't look like, I didn't notice what the things were that were changed. You know?
But I think that's a really good question, and make it easier for me as well. I think that if we have these revisions coming through, that if they do a track change on it, so it highlights any changes or deletions and underlines any additions type thing, you know, how you do the document reviews. So we can see immediately what the change is as opposed to looking for if there's an extra period or an extra comma type stuff.
Oh, no, I can't get to that drive on this computer because I think I have that document somewhere.
I don't remember it being this big though.
I don't either.
I don't think most of them were.
Yeah, most of them like 2.5 pages.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Well,
I did notice some wordings and spacings on here. I'm such an English nerd that, you know, and some overuse of the comma, thank you. But I spoke with Tiffany prior to this meeting and gave her some of my changes or my corrections on this, which was basically just wording and
Wordsmithing.
yeah.
I want to say he might have, I want to say he might have combined a couple,
Right.
and that's why it's so big.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
I think weapons part.
What did you say about the weapons question?
Weapons and ammunition seizure and process of.
Right.
Seizure.
Yeah.
Yes, that's new.
On page 7, just FYI tip on K1,
Uh-huh.
midway through the sentence, it has an extra space there, but it's violence by the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I caught. later.
Yes,
There was a
got that
couple
one
of
on my
errors.
list.
Yeah,
I liked it. I mean, I read the whole thing back and forward.
yeah, I did too.
I did like it. It was very thorough.
Yes. There was one part that I thought, well, this is really redundant, but then I realized it was redundant because,
Well, you know,
Needed to
actually, it's a little bit in my mind too, is when it pertains to no contact orders.
yeah,
The no contact order versus a restraining order, which is two different things. And that the weapons rules are different. I think, based on what I'm reading, I'm almost saying, are they really different? Are they being treated different? As far as weapons are concerned,
Right.
possession of weapons.
Yeah, in the pretrial release, no contact orders.
Right, or even court no contact, because they're not always a restraining order.
When they're released from the domestic violence charge, though, I think that's part of the release agreement is the prohibition of firearms.
Right.
Yeah.
So one or two, when you have some domestic situations or civil situations where the courts order no contact between respondent and whoever the other
Petitioner, yeah.
petitioner, during a divorce situation, or actually more often than not than a child custody issue, then I've heard of courts issuing no contact and using a mediary as a communication hub. But those no contacts to these rules apply.
So I think, yeah, I think the differentiation is under this policy, when we're making a domestic violence custody, when we're making the arrest.
Right.
And then when they're talking about the no contact orders coming out of jail would be separate from like custody.
Right. So it's like a whole different animal. Yes, compared to those child custody issues.
And you'll notice also, just as kind of a side note, the emergency protection order, protective orders.
Yeah.
So that's kind of new and that's recently passed, and in looking at that, really what that was geared towards are more rural counties and cities that don't have pretrial release agreements and no contact orders that are issued by our jail.
That
So
makes sense.
we're lucky in the fact that that really doesn't, we don't need, that's not needed by us, because that's taking, once we make that arrest, those conditions are in place. And so that's not really something we've done much of. We have done a couple in situations where we didn't have probable cause to make the arrest, but we were concerned about their potential danger.
Thank you.
And that's where Chet steps in.
That's right.
Thanks, appreciate that. Was a good explanation.
Any other comments or suggestions or
I promise I'll shut up.
why?
You couldn't shut up and you tried that.
Well, there's only 3 minutes. No. Any other questions or concerns or comments on this particular policy? Okay. Thank you.
Just member chair, if anything has.
All right. How's everything in your neighborhoods?
My neighborhood's terrified. The shooting happened to people who lived in the neighborhood, and whether they, like we were talking about, whether they put themselves in that position or not, the gunfire was really scary. And everybody that I've talked to is really scared. That's what's happening in my neighborhood.
I share 2 things. I have the privilege of doing regular ride-alongs as part of the peer support group team, and I was with an officer recently that he's just driving over 126 on Mohawk Boulevard and saw a man leaning over the bridge, and went over there, intervened, called cahoots, took care of him. I mean, he was contemplating throwing himself over the bridge, and I was just very impressed with the periphery. I mean, that's not protocol. I mean, to be looking around for somebody gonna jump over a bridge. I was just super impressed. I want to give that positive feedback to you, Lieutenant. I don't know if you encourage that or you coach that in the culture, but man, that was huge. I just felt like, man, these aren't just chasing the bad guys. I mean, these are officers that are like shepherding our community. And that was huge. I mean, I'm a pastor. I felt like I was sitting next to a pastor here, you know, in uniform. And so that was pretty inspiring to see. And then also going back maybe a little bit on some of the vision, you know, as a faith leader, father of 6, when I think big picture, one of the things that is stated here is the future, the goals, policies, and strategies. I mean, one thing that very much concerns me, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. I love the way our department is right now, but the future, I mean, obviously there's a lot of hiring going on. And so I'd be really interested to make it a talking point at future meetings as far as, okay, what are some of the goals of the department? What is this going to look like in the future, especially with the newer chief? And I understand that maybe he came on interim, but now he's going to be staying on indefinitely is my understanding at this point. I could be off on that. But you know, what are the long-term goals of our department? I'd be very interested as a community member to know what some of those long-term goals are.
I know that that's definitely on the chief's something he's looking at redoing. 'Cause our goals and vision and mission statement are all like 20 years old probably. So he's got that. I saw it on his whiteboard the other day. So I know he's looking at redoing that and getting a team together to work
Okay.
on those.
Great. That's good.
Yeah, well, I wish he was here. You could ask him that question. Answer for him. Yeah, I mean, my input, number one, your experience on the ride along. I mean, I think unfortunately, we can't accommodate all the ride alongs. I mean, you guys are at a different level, but I think generally the feedback from people is I had no idea that this is what you do for 12 hours a day. And I thought you went out and wrote a couple tickets, stopped some people. But really, I mean, it is a lot of that. And I think many people walk away from it with a totally different perception of what we're faced with and the challenges, and the mental health crisis is, I mean, that's one of the things that now when we're hiring people, and I think it's always kind of been that way, but I mean, more now than ever, we're expected to walk into situations and be not really, but diagnosing people. And is this drugs? Is this, what is it? Which type of mental health crisis is this? How can we then triage that? And, Coots has been great for that. But anyway, so thanks for that. I'm glad to hear the officer acted that way. And yeah, I mean, yeah, of course we expect that.
Yes.
And then in terms of vision and, I think both Chief Scherer and Deputy Chief Resch, both excellent people, great people. We're very lucky. They bring in a different perspective of law enforcement coming from Portland. And, I think over time we're starting to see, some of the things that they learned how to do better than, what we have historically done here. And we're kind of adapting and intertwining some of those things while still maintaining, I take a lot of pride in, my 20 years here and what we've done citywide, and not to say that we haven't had our speed bumps at times, but, I think I'm real proud of it. And I think at the end of the day, we look at all of these situations we encounter, whether it's shootings, whether it's use of force, all these things, we look at the end of the day, people know that we look at the end of the day and like, how could I have done that better? We never walk away and be like, that was great. And then don't think about it. We're constantly critiquing ourselves and trying to get, better, because we're striving to be the best,
Thank you. I wish that we could put what you witnessed out there in the community.
Yeah.
Because we are so quick to see what's bad
Oh, yeah.
about the department instead of what's great.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
So thank you for bringing that up.
And each of the ride-alongs that I've been able to play part in, very positive,
Right.
very positive. I mean, I'm super impressed with, the officers I've been able to spend time with. Blessed are them.
So that she, that's what reminded me.
Yes.
Anything?
Not for me.
Nothing?
No, I'm just, I'm super stoked with maybe things, a lot of folks don't put things together, whatnot in the citywide with 4,369 new street lamps. They're all LED.
Pointed in the right direction. They did that at my.
No, they're correct. And that was something that I will admit that in 2004, when I was coming up to 42nd Street with my young family at the time, that the street light turned red, and realized that the street light was the same color as the amber turn or traffic signal. Slammed on my brakes, freaked out, said some bad words, and I said they should do something about that. And my daughter, Megan, turned around and says, "Who's they?" And I went, she goes, "Didn't you always say that if you want to have a problem, that you should be part of the solution?" And I was like, "Oh my Lord." So anyway, that was the start of it. And it's taken me literally to this year to get that changed. And if we look at the accidents, I would not be shocked at all as to the intensity of our vehicle accidents and our lack of fatal accidents. since the installation of those lights, and it's really, I believe, is the cause of a lot of accidents and a lot of fatal fatalities that we've suffered just because of lighting and not needing to spend $32 million on reconfiguring the street. You know, so and the reason why I thought about this is I got my street light up by my house got changed yesterday. So I'm like, that's so cool.
Mine was last week, so,
So
yeah.
that is
it's nice.
a great deal. And the payback on there is on all those lights is under 2 years. Because it's just the savings in electricity, but but that's been a great public safety thing, I think. And I was gonna mention. Damn it, sorry. Oh, yeah, based on your recommendation a couple of weeks back, when we were over at Duluth's, it was official business. We were shopping together. So, no, I met and I went and had coffee with the deputy chief and spent some time. We talked for an hour over coffee, and I am wholly incredibly impressed with where she comes from and far as not just in her career, but where she comes from mentally, and her aptitude is amazing. But the conversation I had makes me feel, from the position I am here, very comfortable in a sense that I know that if there is something that, for example, Andy or the chief share misses or needs some support in and whatnot, I'm confident that she's got his back. And I'm confident that she will recommend, even at a risk if she doesn't think, she may not like the recommendation. I think she is definitely strong enough personality where I say, no, take a look at, a different angle. So I'm really happy with our, the forming of our command staff here. And it's nice to see you as AIC. He's worked his tail off. I've known him for a ton of years. And the agency itself is to where our insurance is our city is now insurable. And it was at a point of where our city was going to lose our liability insurance. You know what that means? Because of the incidences that was occurring that have been gone for many years. And it's been turned around by our chief, our dedicated staff. And so I'm feeling so much better. It's a good feeling. Trust me. So good work. Thank you. You too, especially she's pretty much running it anyway. So exactly. Chief, you're gonna say this, it's like right on the mash, right?
Well, speaking of good things, I know our next meeting isn't until the first Thursday in February. I just scheduled the Wildish Theater for Tuesday, February 6th for the awards ceremony. So I'll send you guys a formal invite when I know I have it reserved. So I don't know what all the awards are gonna be yet. Gotta figure this out. It's a Wednesday, I think. I think it's Wednesday.
So it's like the day before our meeting?
I think so.
Of course.
February.
February.
Yes. No, it
February
was,
6th is it?
it's the 7th, I mean, the 6th, Tuesday, the 6th, so 2 days before our meeting.
Before our meeting. Okay.
Yeah, and it's gonna be at, I believe, 4 p.m. at the Wildish.
Good.
So I've reserved them. You guys are all welcome to attend.
It's always fun.
There, yes, yeah. It is fun.
Are you bringing pizza?
Yeah. I'm just letting it down.
Bringing pizza?
We'll be there. So the 6th, you said Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 6th, yes.
Then our next meeting will be on the 1st or the 8th.
Our next
Oh.
meeting is going to be on,
Oh, you're right, the 1st.
Yep.
February 1st.
okay.
Oh, so I would have had time to tell you about it.
When it's on the first, we're early, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's here.
I know.
Yes,
I'm gonna have to watch my calendar for that one.
Don't mind. Okay, so it's, the award ceremony is after that.
Yes. I just didn't even realize. Yeah, February 6th. Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have anything need to discuss or would like to discuss? Well, then I am calling this meeting adjourned.
History.
At,
We just talked about history. Streetlights.
I'm sorry,
History.
yes,
Streetlights used to be a wire that went from pole to pole diagonal across the intersection, one bulb in it. Shield. That was it.
yeah,
Mercury vapors came along and that's.
Low pressure sodium, high pressure
Yeah.
sodium, before the mercury vapor, low pressure sodium, high pressure